Against the first type of Origenists, who are shameful as well, 43, but 633 of the series. There are people called Origenists, but this kind of Origenist is not to be found everywhere. I think, though, the sect we are now discussing across next after these others. They are named Origenists, but I am not sure after whom. I do not know whether they are derived from the origin who is called from the origin who is called Anamantius the author, or from some other origin. Still, I have learned of this name. The heresy they profess might have been modeled on the heresy of Epiphanius, whom I described earlier in the Gnostic sects. But these people read various scriptures of the Old and New Testaments, and they reject marriage, although their sexual activity is incessant. Some have said that the sect originated in the region of Rome and Africa. They soiled their bodies, minds, and souls with unchastity. Some of them masquerade as monastics, and their women companions as female monastics, and they are physically corrupted because they satisfy their appetite, but, to put it politely, by the act of Onan the son of Judah. For as Onan covered with Tamar and satisfied his appetite, but did not complete the act by planting his seed for the God-given purpose of procreation, and did himself harm instead, thus as he did the vile thing, so these people have used their supposed female monastics, committing this infamy. For purity is not their concern, but a hypocritical purity in name. Their concern is limited to ensuring that the woman, the seeming the seeming ascetic has seduced does not get pregnant, either so as not to cause childbearing or to escape detection, since they want to be honored for their supposed celibacy. In any case, this is what they do. But others endeavor to get this name filthy satisfaction, not with the woman but by other means, and pollute themselves with their own hands. They to imitate the son of Judah soil the ground with their forbidden practices and drops of filthy and rub their emissions into the earth with their feet, so that their seed will not be snatched by unclean spirits for impregnation of demons. But as I said, they use various scriptures of the Old and New Testaments and certain apocrypha, especially the so-called of Act of Andrew and the others. Indeed, them, they themselves have often freely boasted of doing this thing, of doing this thing. Yet they accuse the members of the church, if you please, who have beloved adoptive wives, as they called them, of doing this too, but secretly for respect for public opinion, so as to engage in their wickedness. In fact, by any pretense, print themselves on the same virgin from regard the public. But some have told me of certain persons now did, who supposedly also did this, having allegedly heard the information from women these people has forced into it. Among them, they used to mention a bishop who had exercised the episcopate for a number of years in a small town in Palestine, and had women of this sort, I mean adoptive wives, to wait on him. Indeed, I have learned even from confessors that he was that sort of person. All the same, I do not believe the persons who have said this and claim to have heard it from the woman, for the strong evidence of the speaker's malice led me sometimes to believe, but at other times to disbelieve the evil report to the archbishop after his death. For the charge against him was something like this: so and so was caught in sin, and with a woman. In his defense, when he confronted him, was that this partner in pollution had told him about the vicious practice, as the vicious practice, although she was already long in years and in her old age, and told him to use her, but scatter his dirty fleet outside out of the out on the ground. And this is the filthy act which deceives their own minds and is blinded by the devil. I see no need for me to cite the texts which have been their downfall. Otherwise I might seem to be using the text which I made as criticisms to discourage the evil practices of each sect, as an incentive to those whose minds are always unstable and vain, and who pursue evil to themselves rather than desiring good. Rather than this, I sought over a few sample arguments as protection against the despiteful snake-like sect. Where have you gotten the idea of your vile, you people? For to begin with, who cannot see that your teacher is entirely teaching of demons, and that the mischief you have contrived is the behavior of deluded, corrupt persons? If conception in is any way evil, this is not because of childbearing, but because of carnal relations. But then, why then do you give me into lust and have carnal relations? And if carnal relations are not evil, neither is it evil for the one who has them to consummate what he has done. Or must an ascetic not cultivate the fruits of the soil, as Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground? But if one tills the ground, like Noah, who became a husbandman and planted a vineyard, and Noah did not plant a vineyard in order for it not to yield vintage. He planted it and drank of the fruit thereof and was drunken, as scripture says. But the aged man is excusable. He was pleasing to God and did not fall to drink for intemperance. Perhaps he was overcome with grief and fell into stupor and succumbed to weakness from infirmity and old age, because he could not bear him. In any case, it was not to be mocked by his son, but the son who mocked him received his curse. For the punishment of those who offer insult to their parents and of thoughts in us that rebel against the knowledge of God and the ordinance he has rightly decreed. For even though marriage is not as highly honored as virginity, and virginity is superior to it, for the true virginity is called glorious and virtuous, not unclean, marriage is respectable too, if one employs God's good creatures for procreation, not shame, and does not misuse God's appointed method of conjugal intercourse. For in fact, virginity is the state of apostle commands, because he says, the virgin and the unmarried woman cared for the things of the Lord, how she may please the Lord, that she may be holy in body and soul, showing that even though the unmarried state is open to suspicion, it is not it is no cause of fault. Indeed, poor piety must be preserved in marriage. We know that Abraham sired children, although we indeed poor piety must be preserved in marriage. We know that Abraham sired children, although he was dear to the Lord, and Isaac, Jacob, and the rest, and they did not sully themselves with wild acts by touching filth and slime, or oppose God's good ordinance of procreation, the lawful wedlock. Nor did those of them who practiced chastity and virginity debase the contest and making something else of it, as though they fed by trickery the virtuous mode of competing. Elijah too never lightly entered towns associated with women, but lived in deserts. Elisha, John, and all who exhibited this great mark of the imitation of the angels made themselves eunuchs in the right way for the kingdom of heaven's sake, in accordance with the Lord's ordinance in the gospel. And although I have a great deal to say about them and could expose the devil's mockery of their minds, and many proofs from Scripture arrest contest with this view. For anyone can see that their behavior is not sensible, and that such knowledge is not from God. Their ridiculous activity and therefore into the practice of iniquity are diabolically inspired. And now that we have named this sect too, like the horrid snake we call the viper, which has a short body but breathes a breath which is fearful for its venom, and blow destruction at those who come near it. Let us go on to the rest, since we have cast it, calling on God to help us keep the promise of our whole walk in God.